All right, everybody, welcome back to Sith Council. It's going to be a good Sith Council. It's just me and Steph. Mike's going to try to figure out what he's going to owe me steak dinner for next week. So there is a lot to talk about. If you guys saw it, we have the full Vanity Fair article that came out. And, man, a lot of stuff in that article. A lot of stuff about the future of television. I have to be honest, a lot of stuff that we talk about on this show every week. About having a plan and putting it together, and how Star Wars, the TV, seems to be more of the shared universe that they're really going for, and paying attention to the mistakes of the past and doing that. Although, even though there was a lot of great stuff said in the article, there's also a lot of things that fans took issue with. Things that Kathleen Kennedy said about Solo and legacy characters and things of that nature. We'll get into all of it. It's a lot. And then we'll talk a little bit about Star Wars Celebration, which is next week, which is nuts. Right around the corner. We're going to be there next week, the three of us. So, all right, let's get into it. Sith Council, it's me and Steph. Here's the show.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Sith Council. If you're brand new to the show, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button. June 1st, we get to 50,000. Going to smash myself in the face with a lemon pie and do a full video with it. At 60,000 by July 1st, Steph and I will smash each other in the face with pies. We decided that. But that's neither here nor there. Make sure Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of it. Big thing. Cool. All right. A lot to break down, a lot to talk about. And to do it with me here today, Steph Sabraw.
You know what's cool?
What's cool?
How many Sith Council fans there are now. It's growing.
It's growing. Yeah, I know.
I've been looking at all the comments. I love you guys.
Yeah, we've been doing, I mean, look, we started this show. The show was built, it's funny because Jedi Council obviously was the show. I started from far, far away. That was the first real Star Wars show that I think that I did. And that was on Geek Nation, Tiffany Smith and I. And then that turned into, because that was primarily audio. And then that turned into Jedi Council, which was, a lot of people really enjoyed that show. And then when I left, I wasn't going to talk Star Wars. And I was like, well, if I was going to do it, why can't I just call it Sith Council? And then I think that we just started doing it digitally.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, Clone Wars, I think, or Bad Batch. May have been how we started. And then, yeah, it's been fun. We're going to evolve it even more so, because I will talk about this more on Big Thing, but we're going to be moving into a studio in like June. So the look of the show will be a little different. But yeah, I'm excited for it. And people are really digging it. I wish that we would have gotten our panel. We didn't. But that's okay. We'll be there. We'll be there on the floor and doing. And it's your first one,
yeah.
So I want to kind of have it'll be nice to do like some video blogs and kind of walk around and see, you're gonna lose your mind.
I know. I'm so excited.
You're gonna lose your mind. I can't wait.
One of my best friends has a bachelorette party, and I'm like, I'm so bummed I can't go.
But not really.
Not really.
Right.
Gonna be in Star Wars land.
It's.
Come on.
I'm telling you, because I know how much because we just talked about it before when you came in. You've been to Comic-Con before.
Yeah.
And I mention this all the time, and I say it to Mike, because Comic-Con for Mike is like the end-all be-all, right? I like going to Comic-Con more so now because of the parties and everything, and there are sometimes walking around the floor, it's really great, but it's so massive because it literally covers everything. So if you love, like, it's a great place for people. Like when you're walking around in San Diego and you're looking at those floors, you can walk the aisles and you go, oh, I really enjoy that. That's not really for me. That's not for me, but that's for me. I'm going to go find that. In Star Wars, everything is for you if you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere you go. Like, and I said this to you. I remember one of my greatest memories is just walking around in awe, looking around at things, and then like we had to stop because a parade of cosplayers came in with the music blasting, and then I turned around and Gareth Edwards is on the floor. Dave Filoni's walking around on the floor. Like, I doubt that he's gonna be able to. Dave Filoni used to be able to walk the floor. I doubt he'll be able to do it now.
Yeah. I know. It's like only I feel like new people in Star Wars can maybe walk the floor now, but definitely not like Favreau, Filoni.
No, Filoni used to walk the floor. He would walk. I mean, I remember I used to see him.
It's just animated.
It was the animated stuff. People would stop him and talk to him and stuff too, but like he wouldn't be able to go 2 feet without everybody talking to him now. So I don't think it's going to be the same for him, but maybe I'm wrong. Like Leland Chi and Pablo Hidalgo would always be walking around there. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it's going to be this year. They're supposed to have it last year for obvious reasons, postponed. I think it's better for them that it was postponed with all the stuff, especially now after looking at this article. So let's tear into this thing because that's really what the whole show is going to be about, and who knows where it's going to go.
Did you know it was going to drop?
No.
I had no idea.
It makes sense though, because Annie Leibovitz has been doing this for so long. I didn't know when. Usually she does it before the movies, but it also it's funny. I was going back and forth with John Hoey from Star Wars Newsnet, who was one of the people who was just not happy with her comments about Solo, right? Because there is that movement of the make Solo 2 happen. That there's a lot of people behind it.
Yeah.
We are not two of those people, but there are people who and God bless them for they love it, but.
I like Attack of the Clones. I mean, I like Episode 2. I like the prequels. I get it. You like what you like.
You like what you like, but they want that thing to happen to make Solo 2, but that's not his issue necessarily. Is them saying no, you can't do it. It's the fact that we'll get into it, but like just kind of negated his performance and blamed it on him. Really, the reason why it didn't work, and there's so much more for why that, in my opinion, why that movie didn't work, and I don't think it was him
at all.
For what he did, I think that he was cast poorly. And when I say he's a great actor, and I thought his performance was great. I just don't see that version. I don't see that as Han Solo, but there are tons of people who disagree with me. But she said something along the lines of like how they realize that they can't recast legacy characters while they're promoting Obi-Wan, which was recast from Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Tamora Morrison was recast. Jeremy Bulloch.
Yeah.
Donald Glover potentially is going to play Lando again in a series. Was recast.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful what you say. But the point and then the other thing was the Kevin Feige stuff she said, which was interesting.
Oh yeah, about his movie.
Well, she said it doesn't look like it's. She said that very curious to what he's going to come up with. But there's no plans right now.
And then a week ago, there was the interview that dropped that said that he had been starting writing it. Right?
And that's the point that John Hoey had made. And I said, the one thing we have to pay attention to is we don't know when this interview, an article happened. Mm-hmm. They could have done like the Annie Leibovitz shoot and all. It didn't just happen yesterday and they put it out. It could have happened a month ago or whatever it might have been. They got that quote from her. And then the screenwriter goes, oops. And says, I am working on it. And maybe they wanted to hold Feige's thing. Maybe they want to hold it. But we'll get into all of it. There's so much. I mean, there's a lot of information that we got yesterday. Yesterday was a big day. They not only with the Vanity Fair thing that dropped. I did my review of Chippendale. That was massive. And then we had the She-Hulk trailer drop. So yesterday was a busy day.
Yeah.
And I will say that out of the Star Wars stuff is probably my most enjoyable, but I can't believe how much I love that Chippendale movie.
I didn't see that.
It's really good.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
It's a really good movie.
The whole movie?
Yeah, it's great. I watched the whole thing. It's on Disney Plus. It's coming up on Disney Plus. It's made for Disney Plus.
Okay.
And it's like Roger Rabbit.
This weekend?
Yeah, it's dropping this weekend. It's like I thought it was going to be just a bad like Alvin and the Chipmunks movie. It's funny.
Okay,
it's really funny. Andy Samberg and John Mulaney.
John Mulaney, that's a great duo.
It's great. And they're really, really funny together. And they explain and they poke fun at Disney movies, and I enjoyed what I saw.
Oh, so good.
All right, let's get into the stuff. First of all, this is something I wanted to mention to you guys before we get into it. Friend of the show, former Jedi Council member, Star Wars in 30 Minutes, Mark Riley. They're bringing it back. Star Wars in 30 Minutes is a legendary show that Mark Riley has been doing. And happy birthday to Mark Riley, by the way.
Happy birthday.
And Mark Riley's been doing this show. I had a pleasure of seeing it. I saw this show with Jeremy Johns years ago. They did it. And he's been doing it for so long. George Lucas has seen this thing. Like it's a legendary show. They haven't done it in a while. And Star Wars Celebration want them to do it this year. And they're not only doing it at Star Wars Celebration, they're also going to be doing it at the Gary Marshall Theater in Burbank in California. So if you are at Star Wars Celebration, you'll be able to see that on May 27th. But if not, and you're going to be in town, you get a chance to see it May 25th, 27th, 28th, 29th. They are going to be at the Gary Marshall Theater on the 25th, 28th, and 29th. So you can get tickets at StarWars30.com. That's www.StarWars30.com. You can follow them on Twitter. It's a really funny show. It's really good. And I think, Steph, we're going to try to go see it that night. He's going to get us tickets on at Celebration. So me, you, and Mike will probably go and check that out. So we'll probably be there also to check that out. It's really good. Okay, so that's that. This is the Vanity Fair article, man, and I'm gonna read from Star Wars Newsnet, who they did a great. There was so much material that they broke down a bunch of it. And this is Tony Gorick over at Star Wars Newsnet. This is his article.
Hey.
Ever since an array of Disney Plus Star Wars series was announced, there was information and details that have been somewhat scarce, other than a few general notes as the shows get closer to release date. Thanks to an extensive Vanity Fair article, there are now incredible new details, sneak peek interviews, gorgeous photos, and fascinating information regarding a slew of upcoming shows like Andor, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, and more. They have this video up there that's really good, but the first thing that they go into was Andor. And so Star Wars Andor, there was a lot of information that popped with this Andor thing. And this is coming up like at the end of August, I think they said. Something like that. So Diego Luna's interview on what makes the story of Andor unique to him, and what he said was, well, first of all, it's a spy thriller that focused on the rebellion 5 years before the events of Rogue One. Lucasfilm confirmed to Vanity Fair that the series will debut late this summer. Here, there's fascinating insight of Diego Luna inside of it, but some of the stuff that he talked about, and him and Tony Gilroy talked about inside of this article was, he was very secretive. He was in like the Uber, and the guy, and he was like holding his phone close so the guy he didn't want to give up any information. But then Tony Gilroy, do you know the whole story with Tony Gilroy and everything that happened with Rogue One?
How he came in for the rewrites, right?
Yeah, well,
I couldn't tell.
Well, so they said the rewrites, but then a lot of people say that he pretty much directed it.
Okay.
It's from rumors are that Gareth Edwards played ball, just kind of said, yeah, okay, cool. But it was Tony Gilroy who took over, which seems to kind of pan out now, considering that they went back to get Tony Gilroy to direct and to do all this stuff, or to produce this stuff. And then, he knows it well. He's not, and doesn't even mention Gareth Edwards, who Gareth Edwards is the guy who brought Rogue One to life, apparently, but yet no mention of him. They bring Tony Gilroy in. No one even mentions that. No one even talks about that. It's like
that's so true.
No one even brought him up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, was there any meetings with Gareth Edwards, the guy who directed Rogue One? No, we went to Tony Gilroy. Why? Because don't worry about it. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, that sounds like you're right. Like, he might have done most of it and then didn't get the full credit. And then they're like, no, but it's cool. We have this series that we want you to do.
And he probably didn't care anyway.
Yeah.
He's just, okay, fine, whatever. What's the gig? So the gig is, and then him and Gilroy and Diego Luna have been talking. So it says in the article, and they talk about more. So Gilroy has talked about that this was an angry dude who we know that he sacrifices himself. That's what Gilroy says. He sacrifices himself, and the question is how someone does that, like where they get to. But the question is, what's he like beforehand? And we find out inside of this the information that his planet was blown up, or whatever it might be from the Empire. But I wonder, because in the book, I can't remember what book it was. It might have been the Rogue One book, and it was the Rogue One book. They say that his family was actually separatists, and fought on the Count Dooku side. So I wonder if they're going to play into that, or if they're going to just ignore it completely because it was in a book.
I think they probably will
play into it.
Yeah, I hope so. But I was excited that they started with this because I know you and I are both on the same side where we're excited to watch it. It's not our number one, but this did make me a little bit more excited for sure because I like the spy thriller aspect. We've always liked that. And then I also think because we're starting, the point in time where this is starting is really cool in terms of like, I think Clone Wars and Rebels did a really good job of showing on the ground what it's like on smaller scale for people that are living under this imprisonment of the Empire, essentially during this transition. So I'm actually really looking forward to this now.
I am too, and I think the espionage side of it, and I think that it allows the opportunity to really do what you and I have been talking about that we hope is going to happen, and that's shine just as bright of a light on the Empire. Mm-hmm. Because the Empire is in full power at this point. This is, they say as much in the article. Like, so if you're getting a series because I don't want to just see spy missions the whole time. It should be the focus of the show. Obviously, that's what they say it's going to be. But I don't want to just every week's a new spy mission, and every week they're just kind of pulling up prank on the Empire and the Empire always loses. You got to show me how powerful the Empire is and show me who are the big threats. And it would seem there would be no indication that they wouldn't do that. And I mean, even in Obi-Wan, they have Imperials and stuff that are in it, but in Andor, you would feel they'd be front and center.
Yeah. I think I wonder what your overall position is. I thought that after I read this entire article that they're moving way more towards serialized television as opposed to episodic, with the exception of Mandalorian season 1, I think was more episodic, and then we started to see more serialized storytelling, and that's what we got in Boba, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I think it just depends on the story.
Yeah,
it depends on the story. Like I mean, Obi-Wan feels like a full-on, and it's just like a full-on movie. And I think that it's just, even when they talk about Obi-Wan inside of this article, it's all of the stuff that they mention with how it was a movie and how they had the director from Billy Elliot at one point. He walked away when they went to the series, but to go back to what you're talking about inside of that series, the narrative of the series. And this is what Kathleen Kennedy ultimately said, right, with the plan. And that's, there was no plan for movies, more or less, is what I read. You know, she said, her quote was how now they don't want somebody to stick around for like a year. They want people to be around for like 5 years, 6 years.
They have to realize that.
What I read from that is, well, what we did before is we found the hot director that was working, and we said, okay, come on in, you do this movie, and we'll find someone else to continue. We'll figure out what it was. That's what George did back in the day. But the problem is it's not 1982 anymore. Mm-hmm. And you can't do that. And the stuff that mixes together, whether it's Marvel or DC or whatever, people want to continually be locked in the entire time. And they realized that with the TV shows, which is something it's just baffling that they didn't have a full-on treatment for the new trilogy when it came out.
Yeah, like they really signed on directors for a year.
Yeah.
For one of the biggest movies ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, she says a year, but I mean, ultimately, you're still locked into
like 2 years.
Yeah, about 2 or 3 years when it comes to the all that stuff and the rush that they go. But it was, I think, what she ultimately meant was, you've got to be locked in
until it's finished.
And play, but play and be part of, be in the sandbox, be in the Star Wars family. Look at Bryce Dallas Howard. Yeah. Look at Jon Favreau. Look at Taika, right? Look at Deborah Chow. Like, these are people that are playing in the sandbox now, and they're continuing to move on and do more stuff inside of it. And I mean, even someone like, when you look in Marvel, look at Jon Watts, who's now moving who we'll talk about in a second too, transitioning into Star Wars. But like all of that, it's like when you're connected inside of it, it means more to you, and it can and that transfers over, and it means more to the fans. You can tell when someone comes in, just as like even Tony Gilroy, who just came in as a hired gun for Rogue One, but is now invested enough that he's doing a series. Like that's ultimately what they're doing right. And I think that this is a good way to get the kind of goodwill back, because it shows, like, you can tell in the TV shows, I don't care what you say about Boba or not, there's still an ultimate plan. Whether you liked how it came out or not, to transition Ahsoka inside of that series, to put the Mandalorian inside of it, to put Boba inside Mandalorian, it all ties in, so there's more of an emotional attachment when you watch it.
Yeah, I was thinking about, because I watched the gallery collection finally of Boba.
Me too.
And it was funny because when we were watching it, I know that there was a lot of episodes I really liked and a lot of moments that I loved. Yeah. And then like a month after, I started thinking that I didn't like it that much. Yeah. You know, when time does that. Yeah. And then I rewatched the gallery. I'm like, oh yeah, there was some fun great moments in this show. Yeah. I actually really liked that gallery too.
I liked it too. I did think that I appreciated a lot of the stuff of where they were coming from, but I didn't agree with a lot of the stuff.
In terms of the characterization of Boba?
Yeah, certain things that they said about things. Yeah, characterization about Boba, how they had to change him up because they already did this with Mando, but I'm like, yeah, but that's who Boba was. And and the thing with what they didn't address was where he said, well, yeah, he'd be different from after you get, it changes you in a Sarlacc pit and you'd be different. Yeah, but we saw him in Mandalorian. He's completely different in Mandalorian than he is. Like in Mandalorian, he's still got that hard edge. He's still putting deals together, and he has that great moment in Mandalorian when he says to Boba, when Boba says to Mandalorian, "No, I gave you my word that I'm going to find this kid with you, and then when that happens, then I'll take off. That's great, and that adds to what they're talking about, like this new kind of code. But he's getting in arguments with that Boba Fett is getting into arguments with Bo-Katan and fighting in the middle of a thing and getting like upset. And even when he's more hard edge. You watch Mandalorian, he is significantly different than what he is about. And it's the same time period, around the same time. He's not going to change that much. I understand the argument of, well, he was with the Tuskens, and then his mentality changed, is what they're saying.
Yeah, from Solo.
Yeah, but it just doesn't compute with what we saw in Mandalorian.
Yeah, I do. Even in the article, you felt that kind of fear that they've felt about having too similar of characters. But all the fans, I think, are like, these are totally different characters, even if there's similarities. Because I feel like the Mando Din Djarin has never been like ruthless. He just gets the job. I don't know.
He can be pretty ruthless. Did you see he
in the meat factory?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know but I feel like, I don't know.
It's more like his job.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that was, which understandably, their big concern was that everything that we thought Boba Fett was with our imaginations is what Din became.
Yeah.
Like, that's everything that we always thought that Boba Fett was going to do. And you're like, well, we can't do that again, can we? And it's like, it's one of my fears about every show they do, whether it's Obi-Wan with Reva, whether it's, they've done it so many times. We've got to make this person like good. And it's like, you don't. Like, Boba Fett didn't have to be super good. He was a gangster.
Yeah.
And then because Favreau was talking about how he did there's like a Godfather inspiration behind it. And you saw that, but it didn't transpire. And it didn't keep that way, because Michael Corleone, he's not, oh yeah, let him live. That's cool. Yeah, he can. He slapped me in the face. Yeah, let him live.
Yeah,
that's cool. No. And that was the stuff that they just tried too much to make him too much of a good guy. But they didn't mention Boba Fett much in that Vanity Fair article.
No, not at all.
Like, at all.
Like, they just mentioned that it happened.
Does that mean no season 2?
I don't think so. I think they're trying now more and more. They left it kind of open-ended. My interpretation is that they wanted to see how it landed. Right. And to me, it was 2.5 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that a lot of, especially there were like 4 episodes of Boba Fett and 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that if it had been amazingly well received, we would have gotten a season 2, and they would have and then we would have designated it as its own thing. Right. But now I think how it landed and what it did, it's 2.5.
Push away from it. You don't need to at this point. Why even bother? If you have all of these other shows that people are excited about and potentially so much other stuff, and I think that's where we can, because I want to talk about the Acolyte, but before we even do that, there was 2 big drops in the article. One was that it was confirmed by Ewan McGregor, who I didn't know was dating.
Neither did I.
Mary, what's her
partner?
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
So, who I like, Scott Pilgrim and a bunch of other stuff. But she's confirmed. She's in Ahsoka, which is great. She elevates every project she's in. I really like her a lot. So that was confirmed, and I think that he confirmed that inside of the article. And then the other thing was this Jon Watts series, which is funny. We've been talking about this Stranger Things show for a while. Mm-hmm. So the Stranger Things show was rumored to come out. It was supposed to be a High Republic show. Mm-hmm. And this was both confirmed and debunked in the same article. And it was confirmed that this is pretty much what the show is going to be, this younger thing that Jon Watts has proven he's pretty good at. When you look at Spider-Man.
Yeah, the trilogy is great.
But it takes place after Jedi. And it takes place in the same time period, like around the same area within a couple of years anyway, when Mando does.
Yes.
That's what I didn't like.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to start finally exploring a different... Why are we going back to that area again?
But then there was a confirmation of the show that's 200 years before.
That's Acolyte.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100 years.
Yeah.
But we knew that
years.
we knew that show was coming out. Yeah.
No, I know. It seems like I was a little disappointed in that we're staying in that realm. Yeah. But I think maybe their thought is that because it's like a kid's perspective, a younger perspective of it, that it might be completely different.
I like the idea that we're getting the younger kids Stranger Things like Jedi. What it will mean, though, is it's probably going to take place after some of the Mandalorian stuff because Luke is out there training people, so you would assume that he's training these kids.
That's what I was reading. Some people being like, could we see a young Ben Solo in here?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Which could be interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they're going to start to do. I don't know.
Maybe Grogu shows up too.
And maybe that's why they want to do it, so they can continue to tie in, as we were just talking about it, like these things that they're setting up and be able to use these characters that we're getting used to continue on shared universe. And I understand that approach. I think that makes sense if you want to continue to connect people that's like, hey, you like that character from this show? Well, they're going to be in this new show. So I get that. I just also think that you possibly could have done that inside of like a High Republic era, but it's not to say, I think they're taking a risk. They think they're taking a massive risk by doing this Acolyte show because it's the only show that's not connected to the original trilogy or the prequels or the new trilogy at all.
And it's what all the fans are, I feel like, so excited to see.
The hardcore fans, they want to see a different era. And so let's get into that one because we'll talk, because there's so many questions I have about that in general. So Andor, by the way, as we said, we're excited about Andor now. That comes out sometime in August. Palpatine, Tarkin, Krennic, all possible. Yep. So we'll see. All right, and then the next one was the Acolyte. So there wasn't much information, but there was some. There was some information about the Acolyte. So here's some of the details that we got. Lucasfilm has lifted the lid on the Acolyte series, headed to Disney Plus, providing a slew of new information on what the show will look like, from time period to the feel of the show. And here's the overall details on the show itself. Lucasfilm has lifted the lid as part of a massive interview with Vanity Fair. Showrunner Leslie Headland reveals a few details about the project stemming from the time period it's set in. Vanity Fair acknowledges previous reports that Amanda Stenberg is rumored to be playing a lead role in the show and mentions that Headland had been working on it the last 2 years from her home. The writing stage is complete and now casting is underway. We knew the Acolyte takes place at the end of the High Republic era, but Vanity Fair now confirms that the show will be set roughly 100 years before the events of the Skywalker saga. Headland was particularly interested in charting the rise of the Sith in the shadows, how they could hide in plain sight without attracting the Jedi attention. Quote, a lot of these characters haven't been born yet. We're taking a look at the political and personal and spiritual things that came up in a time period that we don't know much about. My question when watching The Phantom Menace was always like, well, how did things get to this point? How did we get to a point where a Sith Lord can infiltrate the Senate and none of the Jedi pick up on it? Like, what went wrong? What are the scenarios that led us to this moment? Headland reiterated the initial premise that the Acolyte will be a mystery thriller, love that, and states the show is set in a period with a new name different to a new name different to that used to describe the High Republic, the Age of Enlightenment, a time of peace and prosperity when the Jedi Order became withdrawn from the public eye, rarely getting into physical confrontations. We actually use the term the Renaissance or the Age of Enlightenment. The Jedi uniforms are gold and white, and it's almost like they would never get dirty. That would be out and about. They would never be out and about. The idea is that they could have these types of uniforms because that's how little they're getting into skirmishes. That is already a departure from the Jedi we know in the High Republic. While that era promised and delivered Jedi Knights who had more personality and lived a little bit more freely than the Jedi we saw in the prequels, it sounds like the Acolyte will show us the Jedi's transition into the Order we recognize from the movies. The Acolyte will arrive in 2023, but we have no information more than that when it comes to release. Okay, so a lot of tidbits here.
Yep.
A lot of tidbits for sure. So the first being this show is something that's very exciting for me because it looks like, and you too, because there's the Sith Council, the Sith Rule of Two was started by Darth Bane. Mm-hmm. It was done because the Sith couldn't control themselves and kept wanting power, and they could never hold up with the Jedi in a large army, so they were destroyed pretty much. It looked like they were destroyed, but they were running in the shadows, the Rule of Two, until the time was to strike. Eventually, that time did come to strike when it was the prequel era, and Palpatine finally did it and took over, and even Darth Maul says to him, alas, we can reveal ourselves. And there's a plan that's been in the work for a very long time. So I love the idea that that's what we're exploring. I have so many questions that I'm skeptical about because even some of the stuff said here. This is the stuff Lucasfilm does all the time. They set up this whole stuff with High Republic, right? And they talk about and they get the fans all excited about the High Republic, and they talk about the video games of the High Republic and this and the High Republic and the High Republic. And yet she's like, we're not calling it that. We're calling it the Age of Enlightenment. why? Why don't you call it the High Republic if you're trying to promote this era in Star Wars? And now it's just like, well, that's just that. This is my. I feel like the video game players and the comic book readers and the novel readers are just kind of like disregarded a lot of the times, and it's just like, yeah, well, you guys have that. It's not. We're not doing that for us. We're not going to do that. Like it's and it's like the article says that it's the transition period from when the High Republic turns into this era, but it's like why don't you explore?
Why don't just call it that?
Just call it the High Republic. That way you start to promote this new era that you've been promoting. You want everybody to spend their money on the books and the novels and the comics, but then it's like, yeah, but we're not going to call it that for the TV show. Why? Because that's the real TV and film is like where it really happens. And like it's
High Republic sounds better than Age of Enlightenment.
I think so too. And it's like I think that they're trying, unless they look, if they start the show off and they say along the lines that it is the era of the High Republic and it is beginning the Age of Enlightenment, okay. I still don't think that the High Republic has earned it enough inside of live action yet that it hasn't. I don't know. It's just they're building out this High Republic stuff so much, and it's like, yeah, we don't call it that. Oh, okay.
Why?
Well, why? But the stuff that I do like is the idea that this is going to be a show about the Sith, it seems like.
Yes. And the thing I really liked is the main question she posed. How did the Sith do that?
Right.
Because when you're watching the movies, you're like, the Council, are you guys okay? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah, and I saw somebody pose a question like, well, we find that on the prequels, how it happened. It's Palpatine. Yeah, but there's
not really.
Not really. When you look at that, you read that Darth Plagueis novel, like, that dude is, like, infiltrating. Like, really infiltrating. And that's my next question is, we've been calling for Plagueis for a long time.
Yeah.
So the question then, if we're going 100 years before before episode 1, you're going to guess that Palpatine is in his mid-40s, let's say 50, but I say mid-40s. Even if we say he's 50 years old, still, he ain't born. Palpatine's not around yet. Now, Plagueis, at that point, could be younger, could be, depending. If they make Plagueis a human, then he could be younger. He could be really young. If they make him the species that George Lucas always wanted him to be, and James Luceno wrote him, he's the banking clan, the Mune, and he's an alien that could probably live a while. So if you had him, and then the Mandala, they're playing a totally like the apprentice, the first apprentice of Plagueis, and then Plagueis maybe wipes them out. I don't know. Could be interesting.
That could be sick. I wonder, because how old is Palpatine supposed to be in the prequels?
I think he's like 45 or 50 in that first
so he
one,
would. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he would have been it, and I don't think we need him in that either. I would way rather see Plagueis and see the beginning of working with life and death like that,
right?
And how he even figured that out.
Yeah, and is it confirmed that Amandla is playing a Sith, or could they be a Jedi?
I haven't read that yet. They could be a Jedi.
That would be interesting too, because then because maybe they discover Plagueis because him working in the shadows with another apprentice, or I don't know. Because Plagueis could have been, the fact maybe they're saving Plagueis for this, and that
as opposed to the sequel.
Anything. They'd set him up in episode 3 and just never did anything with it.
I know.
I'm telling you, that novel.
It's like the best part of episode 3 is that conversation too.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite parts of Star Wars is that conversation.
It's great, and 100% they could have done a little bit more with it, but I'm excited for that one now. As far as Celebration goes, and we probably could have done that with Andor too. Maybe we'll jump back to Andor after we're done with this. But Star Wars Celebration, what we think we're gonna get. I think for Star Wars Celebration, for this show, I think we're getting more cast. We're gonna get a little bit more plot. Imagine the audience losing their minds if they find out about Plagueis at Celebration. I don't think it'll happen, but if they do, I think we'll get more cast. It doesn't come out. They said 2023, right? I think so, 2023. But when that, so if 2020,
that's Ahsoka and Acolyte are 2023.
Yeah, and Mandalorian will probably it'll either start or it'll at least end.
Oh yeah.
So you're gonna get 3 series for sure. You're getting 3 this year, 3 or 4 depending on Bad Batch, and a new animated series probably announced. that Jon Watts thing whenever that comes out. So lots of stuff that we're going to see. But Acolyte, I think I don't think we get anything behind the scenes, but I think that maybe some concept art, maybe some a little bit more detail, a little more casting stuff. I think that'll be big.
They already know. Yeah, what Hedlund was saying, it seems like they have a pretty clear vision at least.
Yeah.
So, and I like everything she's saying.
I do too.
I
minus
feel like
the High Republic stuff.
Yeah, that. But I do feel like she's taking like a lot of time to explore.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, that's like that. As you said, that question is the question to ask. Like, that's a fascinating thing to me. And even though we're talking about we're not going to see a lot of characters, we'll see Yoda. We have to see Yoda.
Yeah, we'd have to see Yoda.
Have to. He's only. I mean, at that point, he's only like late 600s or whatever, or 700, wherever he is. Or no, wait.
No,
yeah,
he'd be
he's
like
900. Well, no, he was 900 when he died. So, when 900 years old, you be.
Oh yeah.
So he'd probably be in his late 700s.
Yeah.
So he's definitely no spring chicken, but he'll be around.
Yeah. Maybe Yaddle appearance.
Maybe, but I would love to see. I mean, that's when I want to see Yoda. I don't want to see him in his own show, but he's like that's the stuff we talk about every week on this show. Like, that's not fan service to put him in.
No,
because he would be there.
Yes.
Like when there are characters that would be there, it's like, because if he's not there, you'd be like, where the hell's Yoda?
Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense.
It wouldn't make any sense.
No. Especially when you're forming the council, yeah.
Yeah, at that point in time. So, and then what it also allows you to do, that if they set up the lore and the height of the Jedi at that point, which is also very exciting that we don't really see a lot of, we've only seen in prequels kind of.
Yeah, this is their most powerful moment where they don't have to do things really.
And it's that question that she brings up of like, how did it happen? Because maybe they were getting a little arrogant at that point to say that nobody's going to infiltrate us anymore. Our big threats are gone. We've got control of it. And the conspiracy has been happening for a while. And I am very curious and not concerned, but wondering, because they always, when in TV shows like this, they do have the opportunity to negate things that had been set up in the past, whether it's in novels or other stuff, or even novels that are legends. But like the Bane stuff, Bane was set up in Clone Wars that he did set up Rule of Two. Are they going to mention that? Are they going to mention Revan? Are they going to mention any of these things that like the history of the Sith? Are they going to get it? Like Sith lore is stuff that it's, to me, stuff that has not been explored even remotely. Like the best they've ever done it was in Knights of the Republic, and that's not canon.
Yeah. And it's such a loss of opportunity because Sith lore there's depth to it. You know, there's a reason why there's pull to it with people like Anakin.
We have the Jedi lore. Let's go more into Sith lore. And I should say the Darth Bane novels also really dive into it. So I am curious and hopeful that the Acolyte does so well inside of this that they expand off of it and then they start to spin off, because if they spin off the way that they are in the Mandalorian way and the Ahsoka and all this stuff, maybe the Acolyte will start the spin from that time period and get us more excited about other characters within.
I think starting 100 years before is good because they could do 5 years, they could do 20 years, and there'd still be a lot of years to explore.
Yeah. Okay, before we move on, I also want to tell you guys, I've been talking about it for a while, Athletic Greens. Love Athletic Greens. You should be checking out Athletic Greens. And I've mentioned it a million times over, where Brett has told me, he's like, hey, you gotta get Athletic Greens, man. You have all those packets, you're not using them. Why? And I was like, okay, I'll use them. And I love it. I love it. It gives me that boost of energy. I started doing it because I wanted better gut health, more energy, and optimized immune system, and I get all of it now. I've been doing it, and it doesn't even taste like it. You get those drinks that are like super healthy, and you're like, oh, this tastes super healthy. It doesn't. It's got like a mild tropical taste. I really look forward to it. You take 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, you get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods. It's great. I do it to get that boost and to feel like, get an extra pep in my step. It tastes like it's got that fruity taste, which I'm very surprised about, to be honest. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals. It supports better sleep quality. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. And it's trusted by leading health experts. And in 2020, Athletic Greens purchased carbon credits that support projects protecting old growth rainforests. It's great. And it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. You have to go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing, athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Take ownership over your health and pick up that ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So do that. Our friends over at Athletic Greens are phenomenal. And I would also tell you that when you get these sponsorships that we have and you like these ones and you buy them, it helps out the show tremendously. As Steph said, we're growing in our audience, or we're growing in general, and it's because of the great audience like you guys. So give yourselves a boost. Get Athletic Greens. Okay, so there you go. You got it right there.
I'm ready to get.
Do you
boosted.
want that packet?
Have
you had one yet?
No, I'll just try it today in
my
water bottle.
Try it. Yeah, that's what I do. I put it in the water bottle and I shake it up. Yep, that's it. And you'll be surprised how good it tastes.
Okay, I'm excited.
All right, so that was those were those two things, and I think we'll jump back into Andor in a second, but let's you want to talk about Ahsoka? I know you do. I know you want to talk about Ahsoka. Let's talk about Ahsoka because there's a lot there. Ahsoka Tano is finally getting her own show, and Dave Filoni's doing it. You knew he was going to do it. The addition of the character. So this is Rosario Dawson talking about the difficulties of keeping Ahsoka secrets. It seems Rosario Dawson is not quite as secretive about Star Wars spoilers as Lucasfilm would like. In an interview with Vanity Fair, she reveals how she tried to call her friend's son while wearing her Ahsoka makeup. I called my friend Paulina because her son Cosmo is a huge fan of Star Wars. He knows every ship, every robot. He sees me and he throws the phone across the room. He just freaked out. I've gotten ice cream with this kid. We've hung out, but it was too much that this character he loves was starting talking to him, and said his name. She calls me back the next day and goes, Cosmo just walked into the room and said he's ready. I said, that's sweet, but I'm no longer in costume. His moment is missed. Cold-blooded. The report also references the time when Dawson shared a rumor on social media that Hayden Christensen would be joining the cast of Ahsoka, a post that many fans took as confirmation that we'd be getting Anakin Skywalker in flashbacks or as Force Ghost. Unfortunately, it seems like she was just as in the dark as the rest of us. It seems Dawson just read a trade report and got excited. Bull BS. I just posted Sky Guy. They know. See you soon, Snips. I looked at my email and Star Wars was like, you might want to take that down. I'm like, man, I can't be trusted. Vanity Fair points out Lucasfilm never actually confirmed whether or not Hayden Christensen will be appearing in Ahsoka or not, though they do offer some insight from Dave Filoni on what shape the series will take. Ahsoka is a continuous story. It's definitely driving toward a goal in my mind as opposed to being a little singular adventures. That's what I want the character to be doing, and that's what fans want now. They have such a relationship with her. I've only recently started to understand that all those kids that watch Clone Wars are now a lot older. They're very excited about all the things they grew up with, as they should be. It seems unlikely that anyone was expecting Ahsoka to be a procedural series with a new adventure starting every week, but it's nice to get confirmation that it is a serial story all the time. That's what Steph was saying before. The series is still slated to debut sometime in 2023, along with the Acolyte. All right. So let's start, first of all, with the spoiler part of it, because this is important. She was given a way to give that answer, for sure. She's like, oh, yeah, I read off some trade. Come on, you were filming with him probably last week. So, okay, we know Hayden Christensen. That's not the big reveal.
Yeah.
The big reveal is what she also did was she also tweeted out about how excited she was that Mina Mossad and what's his face, Lars Mikkelsen were also cast.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I think that was Lucasfilm was like, no. That's
not the Sky Guy.
No, not as much because, I mean, sure, that's a reveal and people kind of did some reporting on it, but it was when she confirmed that, I think that also ties into Filoni's comment that this is a continuous story. This is the end of Rebels. This is after we found what happened with the end of Filoni gets to continue Rebels in live action. That's what it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just finished rewatching Clone Wars.
Clone Wars or Rebels?
And now I'm still
watching Rebels. Now you're rewatching Rebels.
Yeah, now I'm rewatching Rebels, and I love those shows so much, but Ahsoka really is this one of the sickest characters
She's
ever.
great. Yeah.
I think that they're handling this with care, and it makes sense. Like, it's one of those things that I don't know if they had initial plans to ever make a live action Ahsoka,
Right.
but it fits perfectly. Like, that is a part of the story that can be explored in live action in such a good way.
Well, Filoni has wanted to do live action. I remember when we ran into him, we talked to him, we're like, when are they going to give you a movie? When are they going to give you a movie? This is before series. And he's like, this is the best of all the worlds here, because I always wanted to get a movie. I was like, always like, Filoni should get a movie. And now he's done television successful twice.
Yeah.
With Clone Wars. I mean, those two big ones, and people can say whatever you want about Resistance or whatever too, but he was producer on that. But Rebels and Clone Wars are the two that really hit with Star Wars fans.
They're great.
And he had this character of Ahsoka, and now to carry it over, now to do live action. And I don't know, man, because most of his, there's only one of his episodes of Mandalorian I thought was okay, but the rest of his stuff I thought has been great.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting in this article that we got a lot, at least I felt like I got more perspective of him and Favreau's relationship.
Yeah.
And how lucky it is that they worked so well together. It's two like alphas in this like creation world. Well, they said it, but I imagine though, especially in those there's some episodes that might not be great because you have two visionaries working on one project.
Yeah, I buy that they're close. That's not what the face was from what the way that they portrayed that was like. Oh yeah, they were on these opposite sides, and I got them together, and
the quote. Mm-hmm.
Well, I put them together, and the Vanity Fair was like, well, they kind of knew each other, and they kind of got along. They worked on Clone Wars and Rebels together a bunch.
Yeah,
because he was Vizsla in that. Like they knew each other beforehand.
They knew each other. Yeah. I'm
not disregarding the fact that Kathleen Kennedy probably definitely put together that phone call and said, you guys need to figure this out because this is the stuff that I think that she doesn't get credit for, where it's like you got to put those conversations together. But I didn't like that it was posed like they just kind of knew each other casually. They worked together before. They knew each other well enough, and they knew each other's lore. But I love the story of it, of how it came to be, because that was the story I always knew, that he wanted to do Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. And then Favreau wanted to do Boba Fett. Filoni's like, well, we can't, because we don't really have any Mandalorians here. The kind of Mandalorians that we do have, and where they are at this moment, because and then throwing back to that George Lucas moment of saying, well, yeah, they're at a peace. They're in a peaceful
they're pacifists
time.
now.
Yeah. And he's like, well, really, that's not the kind of Mandalorians that we always knew. He's like, yeah, but people change, cultures change, and like all of that was great. And then the idea that
it was one of the best parts about the season too.
It was, and Grogu, that I thought was pretty revealing and showing how they can get on the same page, because Filoni's also been known to be, like as you said, like, well, no, this is the way it needs to be. And Favreau's like, yeah, but this could work with Grogu, because they were worried about, he wanted to protect George's vision of not letting the species be known and all that. And the fact that they came together to finally figure it out, it does show that there's a partnership there. So I agree with you. Yeah.
I was like, Favreau, what a guy. You brought my Grogu to life.
Yeah.
Like, that is such, I can imagine them being like, what? You want this child?
A species?
Baby green thing?
Right.
And that was one of my favorite parts, just thinking about how many art concepts they had to come up to.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Filoni,
it's perfect.
And Filoni, the fact that Filoni drew it and sketched it out. Yeah, like they really are working together very well. But that's why, kind of transitioning once again to like Ahsoka, the idea that he gets to continue on Rebels and continue that angle, because from what I don't understand why. I mean, maybe because he doesn't want to give too much information on anything with Ahsoka. But when he was asked about the timeline, when you go to that episode, and I think people will rewatch the episode where Ahsoka debuts in Mandalorian, that apparently is like right before the ending of Rebels. So that happens first. She gets the information. Remember, at the end of that episode, she asks she says, "Where is Thrawn?"
Yeah.
And so that's where she gets the information. Then she goes and finds Sabine, and then Sabine and her go to look for Ezra. So that's what I assume is going to happen. The stuff that I'm very curious about, if they tied that in to Mandalorian, then I'm hoping that the scene in Boba Fett when Luke says, "Am I going to see you again?" and she says, "Perhaps," or whatever she says, that's got to be a setup to something.
It
right?
has to be.
Yeah.
Because why would they choose that? Every line matters, especially when you're only getting a character for 1-2 scenes in an episode.
Yeah.
It's a setup. And now he looks great to me. And he's going to probably look better in the next iteration we see.
You would hope so, but it does tie into I think one of the next things that we'll talk about. That's the Kathleen Kennedy talks about the legacy characters, All right, so let's move on because Ahsoka does come out next year. Let's actually, before we move on, Celebration.
Yep.
I believe that we'll get a confirmation of Mina Mossad and Lars Mikkelsen.
Finally.
And Hayden Christensen. We'll get a return and some new cast members, obviously, and I guess Ewan's lady.
Oh yeah.
We'll get a confirmation with her. So we're going to get confirmation of the cast. Now they have been shooting. They just started shooting recently. So I don't think we're going to get a trailer, but I do think we'll get a behind the scenes kind of featurette and some cool images of things. And I think we'll get our first look at Thrawn.
That would be sick.
I think we can get our first look at Thrawn, and I think that's what everybody's going to be talking about. They're going to be talking about Thrawn.
That would be crazy.
They'll either do one of these things that they announce Lars first, or they show the footage first, show Thrawn, and then bring him out.
Walk him out. Yeah.
Which would be
people would go nuts.
They'd lose their mind. It'd be a great way to do it, and it'd show a little bit of Ezra footage, show a little bit of Sabine, excuse me, show a little of that footage. And I think that's where you're going to get a lot of information about what the story is, and that's going to be a massive, massive panel and a big news getter for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
especially
so. I think it's like the perfect place, Star Wars Celebration, because you're really with the fans who've watched everything.
I agree. Okay, so that's that, and now moving on to then. Yeah, here's this going on to the actual news itself with film. And this is where I don't think that Mike really pays attention what's going on, because he's like, it looks like I'm going to win my bet. Well, first of all, the bet was that a Jedi was going to be hung in the in the square. It wasn't about the movies.
Oh yeah.
When I looked, but I told him I still will guarantee they're going to announce one movie.
They are. After reading this article, I think you're totally right.
And he says no. He says no still. So I want to make sure that we lock that down, because I'm getting 2 steak dinners out of this thing, and I'll put you in on this day. I'm going to make sure that if they don't on that day, all 3 of us will go out to steak dinner, and he's going to pay for it, because this is the. All right, here's the article. As part of Vanity Fair's big Star Wars piece about the franchise future on television, Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy has offered a few updates on the status of the Star Wars on the big screen. The biggest news is that Rogue Squadron has been pushed back in favor of bringing the unknown Star Wars project, directed and co-written by Taika Waititi, forward, although no official dates have been set. That's where I think we're getting that's why I'm telling you that Taika Waititi's coming out on stage at Star Wars Celebration. I'm going to hold back on the Kevin Feige stuff for now, but we'll talk about that in a second. It's been known for a while that Patty Jenkins was committed to Rogue Squadron, but the project has been in a bind. Originally, the plan was for Matthew Robinson to get a script together in order to have a film ready by December 2023, but Lucasfilm instead opted to postpone the start of filming indefinitely due to development issues. And although Disney recently listed the movie as being planned to make the 2023 release date, the article now stated that it will be arriving later than originally planned, with no release date given as yet. Ultimately, the project is not canceled, and as of this time, Jenkins and Robinson remain on the project. Jenkins has also opted to step down from directing a Cleopatra biopic in favor of producing it, with word that she'll be now focusing on Rogue Squadron and Wonder Woman 3. With DC Films adjusting the slate of films, Jenkins may still have time to get Rogue Squadron done before she finishes her trilogy of Wonder Woman. Meanwhile, Taika Waititi is now set to have his Star Wars movie come out before hers. Kathleen Kennedy expects that project will take Squadron's place in terms of release order in an untitled Star Wars project from writer-director Taika Waititi, who is penning the script to the movie alongside Christy Wilson Cairns, 1917, Last Night in Soho. Waititi has dipped his toes in the realm of Star Wars before the first season of The Mandalorian. Very little is known about the project, but fans have presumed that it may cover the very distant past of the Star Wars galaxy. Interesting, due to the presentation announcing the project featuring a mysterious object that resembles a Thoyor ship, something presumably featured in the Dawn of the Jedi book series. No release date has been given, but it can be presumed that Lucasfilm are hoping to get the film to take the December 2023 release date if they can make it work. That's like 2 years from now. So, or 2 years, that's a year from now. No chance.
No.
For fans hoping for a future on the Solo big screen, to say Kennedy has dashed these hopes. With regard to trying to recreate iconic Star Wars characters, here we go. From Star Wars movies past using digital magic, she had this to say. There should be moments along the way when you learn things. Now it does seem so abundantly clear that we can't do that. However, it isn't lost for Solo enjoyers. The Lando spinoff starring Donald Glover remains in development for Disney+. There weren't any updates in the expose on the television side of the equation, and rumors of some kind project focus on Crimson Dawn have popped up as well. Whether or not Alden Ehrenreich ever gets a shot to play the character again remains to be seen. A bizarre note is that Kennedy seemed to act as though the standalone Star Wars project that Marvel producer Kevin Feige is not officially on the cards, despite years of reports on the contrary and confirmation from multiple parties that it's in the pipeline at some point. I would love to see what he might come up with, but right now there isn't anything specifically. The likely explanation is that Feige hasn't pitched his movie full of yet, although it is very likely that it will get made due to his efficiency as a producer and great reputation. Michael Waldron is writing the project, with Loki screenwriter recently noting that it's one of his big focuses after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Lastly, Rian Johnson, planned potential trilogy, announced on a soft sunny day back in 2017, has remained the subject of a lot of conversation due to the lack of status updates despite years of development. Vanity Fair describes the project as being on the back burner, with Kennedy saying that Johnson's existing commitments keep him from doing it. Ryan has been unbelievably busy with Knives Out and the deal he made at Netflix for multiple movies. Kennedy noted that Lucasfilm has a sense of direction as to where they're headed, and that fans should think of Star Wars stories in terms of conventional storytelling going forward, which may or may not apply to Johnson's planned films. They're going to dial it back and do a one movie at a time approach. Good idea. We have a roadmap. I hesitate to use the word trilogy anymore because Star Wars is much more about persistent storytelling. Should have done that years ago. As it stands, various Star Wars movies are dated for 2022. As it stands, various Star Wars movies are dated for December 2023. Wow. December 2025. And December 2027. Okay, so tons. This is our last one of the day here, Steph.
Yep.
Tons to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's start with this legacy comment. I don't understand it. It's like, as I said before, it's like here's this conversation that you're having of Solo. It's like, just say, it's okay to say we had an idea. We thought that we could make this particular thing work. The script wasn't. It didn't turn out the way we want. Fans didn't respond to it the way we hoped that they would. We had a couple issues behind the scenes as far as how it was shot and the obvious, like the honesty of it would have been better. If she was like, look, it's very widely known that there were some issues that we had with Lord and Miller, and it didn't work out. They had a different vision than we did, and we brought in Ron Howard to do it. I think he did an excellent job for what he did. We had a great score. I thought Alden had a really great job, but fans didn't respond the way we wanted to, so that movie didn't ultimately work the way we had hoped. That's it. You walk away and you go, oh, and they go, okay, well, that was honest. And it's like, we're probably not going to explore that right now. Maybe down the line, if it's possible, hey, who knows? You never know. Maybe Solo could pop up in another thing. We have no plans for it right now, but you never know. To say, well, that we have to learn from our mistakes and we can't recast legacy characters. It's like, none of that makes sense. First of all, you're shitting on Alden Ehrenreich, who did not crapping on him. I keep promising this guy who listens to this thing that we're with his kids. I apologize. But it's it's stuff like that. It's like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it just felt like so unnecessary.
Yeah.
You could have been like, we're learning from mistakes, period, right. End of sentence, because there obviously was mistakes. Everyone in the industry knew about how the drama that was going on. But it just is weird to single out an actor like that in a performance when you start the movie and the first second is this alien with a weird...
Yes.
And that's before I think Solo even says
nothing
anything.
To do with him.
Nothing to do with him. So it just felt not like a leadership statement.
Right.
Which usually...
Place the blame on somebody else.
That's not my controversy with her,
right.
My criticism. And for the first time, I was like, that felt like not very... Like, a leader shouldn't say that.
But it also doesn't make any sense considering that that's all you're doing is legacy stuff. You did the legacy stuff, and granted, the deep fake stuff with Luke, but again, Boba Fett was recast. and Obi-Wan was recast. You're still doing the Lando series.
The actors in Star Wars forever have taken way too much crap for some like the behind the scenes.
Right.
Like we've seen it with Hayden Christensen. We've seen it with all of Rey, Finn, Poe, and it's like a lot of the problems that you view are from directors, writers, production.
Yes. It's like, so those statements were interesting. The other interesting one was the Kevin Feige thing. And as I said before, that you got to understand this was probably this, but again, it's still, even if she answers the question, I don't know how he's going to, we don't know. We'll see what he comes up with, but no plans right now. As their article says, which is odd because they already announced that they were going to do something. Waldron is now saying that, and this could have happened beforehand, but still he comes out and says that they are working on it. But why not just say, maybe this could be that maybe they're planning on doing a big thing with Feige at Celebration, and she didn't want to spoil it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. But the other
idea.
What's that?
Like a juke out, kind of.
I don't know. Just
I think this interview was well before, though. I think it was at least a month ago.
I think it was probably done about a month ago, but that's why she doesn't want to but still to not. If he is indeed working on stuff, well, it's not like he's working off to the side with Waldron and like, hey, work on that thing, and then we're just gonna submit it to Lucasfilm. They don't even know we're doing it. It's like they would have to know, like, hey, we're gonna have the draft into you soon. We're gonna have this. We're gonna have that. So they would have these conversations. So it is bizarre that it would say that, but I do think that this, what planet Mike's on, sometimes I have no idea. I think this absolutely cements the fact that Taika Waititi they're going to announce this movie at Celebration if it's coming out, if it's still coming out in 2023, which I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But if it is, he's been working on it. We know what it is. We're going to find out what it is.
Yes. I think there's, to me, no way it comes out in 2023. Perhaps they're going to revitalize the December release of like the new thing that they were doing. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. But I definitely think that this confirmed that they're still working on movies in a way that we thought they might be taking a break. They haven't even closed out any of the films that I thought they kind of were.
Well, the Rogue Squadron,
Rogue Squadron, the Rian Johnson trilogy, which I don't think either of those are happening.
It is so like the odds. If you had $100 and you're like, I can only bet on one thing. Should I bet on the fact that this movie will not come out in 2023? I would tell you to put that money down because it would mean they'd have to start shooting it like
yesterday.
Yeah. Like it's like really soon, and maybe, who knows, maybe they have, but like they'd have to start shooting it already, and then it'd have to be done within a year. They have to wrap everything up,
and that would go against her original thought that you need multiple years.
Well, no, she was just, but Taika Waititi. Well, the thing was that if that's the case, it means Taika's been working on it for a while, and they've kept it that quiet.
Yeah,
that's another trick that they would have to have done. They would have to keep it that quiet. I do like the idea that this will be with the Acolyte, something that happens years ago. Because remember, Benioff and Weiss were supposed to do the rumored thing was at the start of the Jedi and the start of the Sith. So maybe Taika took that over. Maybe Taika took that project over and then has been retooling it. So it was almost ready to go, and now he's taking it over. So I think we're definitely getting information about the movies now, especially after this article.
They have a 4-day celebration.
Yeah.
We're getting a movie.
We're getting something for sure. If not, one for sure. I still think two possibly. I'm not as sold on the Kevin Feige thing anymore. I still think it's possible that you could announce it if it was kind of like a bait and switch type thing. But I don't know. I think we definitely get maybe some information on Rogue Squadron. Definitely Taika for sure. And maybe they announce whatever that mystery one is in that last date. But other than that, I think that's the majority of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to get more information. Obi-Wan's coming right down the pike. There's the gallery stuff we still haven't really get a chance to talk about because there was just so much that dropped in this Vanity Fair. But what I will tell you guys, next week, I think the way we're going to do this for next week is we're going to be putting a lot of videos up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and possibly Sunday. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a full council episode up. If anything, it's just probably going to be something similar to what Mark and I did with our out of the theater reaction thing, and maybe we talk about it for a while. And they're just going to be kind of Sith Council videos throughout the entire week. There might be There might be a full episode. I don't know yet, but most likely just make sure you're following this channel, following us on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, Facebook. We're going to be posting a lot. And that's really it. So we'll be there. It'll be for myself and Steph and Mike. Join us. We'll see you at Star Wars Celebration. Please leave your comments in this. Like, subscribe, do all that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, the notification button, podcast form. Very, very important. And please support us and go get yourself some athletic greens. All right, everybody. For myself and Steph, Sabraw, follow Steph at The World Girls. Follow her on the IG. Oh, did you like Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
It was great, wasn't it?
I did.
It was
It's great.
I told
It's
you.
great.
All right, everybody. So follow her for some more movies that she hasn't seen. Okay. See you later.
I